Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We've got a nice sized room here today. Today we're going to be talking about open houses. Now, these aren't revolutionary, right? It's kind of like the 101 of real estate. Anyone here not ever been to or hosted an open house? Zero hands, right? So this isn't going to be 101. What we're talking about today is how to rethink what an open house is for you. Of course, we do it for the client, and that's how I was taught it at the very beginning. It was something that you did as almost an obligation. And that's why I started to not like them too. I was thinking, I can just do better by posting this house on Instagram or on Facebook, or I can just try to do some other way of selling it. Why am I going to waste my Sunday sitting around? I could just be prospecting web leads. But if you start to rethink, the more training seminars I went to, the more training I got through the Tom Ferry Company, I realized, there was people thinking about open houses in a total different way. And if you guys hang out with me a lot, you know that it comes around to kind of reverse engineering what you want out of an open house and then setting it up that way to get that result. Now, we're going to ask a bunch of questions. I'm getting ahead of myself. But one thing I think right now, the massive opportunity, we always look at the challenges in the market. And what's the challenge with our listings right now? Yeah, they're sitting on the market. We're not getting our bidding wars on day 5 or pre-market bidding wars. Your coming soon is kind of irrelevant right now, right? Who cares if it's coming soon? Just put it on the market, right? And so we look at that as the challenge. Well, what's the flip side of that? The solution is you have time. You have a sign in a yard. You have a house that you can hold open. You're getting sign calls, hopefully. You're going to pick up a buyer. So when we take whatever the challenges of the market and we flip it into an opportunity, and that's where I see open houses are right now. Where's Carson or Ryan? How many active listings on the crew right now?
I think we have 37.
Like 37 active signs in yards and like 13 active real estate licenses. We could all be holding 2 open houses a weekend and we still wouldn't be covering our entire inventory, right? But we're not. Because we've had 2 years of a fast market where open houses were kind of a last-ditch effort. Maybe if your seller didn't get their bidding war going, so then you're like, well, what am I going to do weekend 2? I got to do something, right? But if we rethink this could actually be a major part of your lead generation strategy. And if you do it consistently, you can get known for it. I've got some friends in my mastermind groups that throw crazy open houses, like food trucks, buskers in the front yard, hundreds. I think my friend Eric had 412, he said, people threw his open house last weekend on a $2 million property in Southern California, right? Which isn't an expensive house down there. That's an average house in the neighborhood. Okay, let's get started with a few questions. Okay, are open houses... Thanks, Ryan. Are open houses a lead source for you? Show of hands. Is it a consistent lead source for you? Yeah, when you do them? I only saw like 2 hands. Okay, so we're going to rethink that. This is where I want to start the rethinking. I'm just curious. I'm going to pause here. I know you guys aren't mic'd, so we'll probably cut this out of the video, but why do you do open houses then? Guess?
Guessed.
Why do you hold an open house if it's not a lead source for you? Just honestly.
It is a lead source.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say to please the client.
To make the client happy, like as an obligation. Yeah, Eric?
I try to get leads from them.
But it's not working?
It doesn't really work. And then, well, sometimes it works. It's not often for me. And then to sell the house.
Yeah, to try to get the home actually sold. Okay. So I want everyone to start thinking for the next 20 or 30 minutes, how could I make the open house for me? As a secondary effect, sure, we're doing it to sell the house for the client, but can I rethink of an open house that it's actually for me? You approach it a lot differently with the effort you put into it and the marketing and everything you do with it. Okay, so this can be, how many open houses do you generally hold per month on average? I saw 4 there. Really?
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday. I love it, Josh. Well, a show of hands, you have 5 fingers, so most people aren't going to need more than 1 hand. How many average per month, if I look back in the last 12 months or the last 6 months, how many open houses in a month have you held? 1, 5, 4? Okay, cool. As many as possible. I love it. 3? Okay, cool. So again, that could be a number you want more consistency on. There's typically 4 to 5 weekends a month, right? Maybe you want one off, I don't know. But it is part of our job, and it's something that you could be doing every weekend. How many new opportunities do you typically generate at an open house? If you think about it. 1? I saw a finger from Josh. Does this mean zeros? Is this all zeros?
Usually 1 or 2.
Okay, so we want them to be for us, but at the end of the day, we really just held it to make the client happy, maybe get them some feedback. This is the key part, right? If we're gonna zero in, we wanna leave the open house. If we don't leave it with an offer on the property, we wanna leave it with at least a lead for us. Man, you just spent all that time and energy, and we didn't leave there with at least a new opportunity for ourselves, hopefully more than one. That's where the things are going wrong. So that's where we want to re-engineer it. And I guess if I'm getting to this question, the answer is probably going to be no, right? So this is where all the magic happens, is I actually have a systematic process I follow that gets me the results of lots of people in the open house, lots of contact information. I met a buyer, I met a seller, right? I actually follow a process that gets me these results. I'm not just scrambling on a Friday afternoon because my seller's pissed at me and said, why aren't you selling my house? And you're like, shit, I'll hold an open house. And then I just go there with my novel for a couple hours and hope somebody shows up. That's not how to pull it. Anyone been to one of those? Anyone go secret open housing? It's one of my little espionage tools. You see all kinds of realtors, right? You see the ones doing the food trays, the welcome. You see the super slick sales techniques that you can't get in the door unless you show me your ID. And you also see the realtor sitting in the lazy boy reading his novella. I've seen them all, right? You got to pick which type of realtor you want to be at one of these. Okay, so we talked about this a little more. Let's see if we can get a few more answers, though. I heard to sell the house. Why else do we do open houses? Find a buyer. Good one. Yes.
Meet the neighbors.
Meet the neighbors / find a seller. Yeah. Sphere / seller. Love it.
Show off.
For real. Say it in the real words, though.
To show what we can offer.
For yourself, right? It's your own marketing. I love it, Josh. Thank you. Why else do we do open houses? Anybody?
You can door knock the neighborhood too.
Gives you, it's like a momentum builder. Love it. Yeah. Any other reasons we might do an open house?
Just exposure, like signs and stuff out on the street, so you're seeing.
Yeah, it's a bit of Josh's, right? Show off. It's marketing for myself. It's like I'm doing something, right?
Sell the house.
And to meet.
Of course, to sell the house, meet new people, right? So you guys already know all this. But do we believe it? Doesn't sound like it yet, right? We got to believe this, right? So this is the one we typically fall into if we're kind of negative about open houses. I'm doing this as an obligation. The house isn't sold. The seller's on my ass. I guess I'm going to hold it open. And then what happens when it doesn't sell that weekend? They want you to do it next weekend and next weekend. This is how I felt about it in my early start of my career. It was kind of like newspaper advertising too, where you had to pay like $100 every week to have your house in the paper. And it was like, okay, we're 8 weeks on market. I'm $800 in a newspaper. Your 9th ad is not getting the house sold, but I guess I'll do it because I'm not doing anything else. We want to wash this one out of our head. We really want to try to sell the house, market ourselves, meet a seller and meet a buyer, and maybe put a plural on both of those, right? And these things can all be accomplished with the same plan. These aren't in competition with each other. So holding an incredible open house for yourself is also probably increasing the likelihood that you're going to sell the house. Marketing a lot and getting a ton of exposure for yourself, right, Josh, is probably going to increase the number of people that come to the open house. These things are all interconnected. These goals are not at war with each other. Does that make sense? All right. I'm getting a lot of blank stares. Give me some nods, please. We're all here in a live room together. Thanks, Carson. All right. Hope you're nodding on the Zoom. Take some notes. Okay. So if I was designing a system, which I have, I would be looking to start with maximizing the marketing exposure. So the more people that know about the open house, and there's lots of steps here, we're going to get into them, then that should maximize the attendance. Make sense? And if we maximize the attendance, then we're going to maximize the number of chances we have to actually generate a lead. It's not all tire kickers, right? So if it's 50% tire kickers and 50% potential real leads, and you go from having 10 people to having 100 people at your open house, you're going to do better, right? The reason, I'll tell you a little side story, the reason I stopped doing open houses, I remember my last one ever, I was doing them for other agents because I had no other way of generating business, so I was trying anything I could early in my career. And it was the shitty market of 2009, which most of you were not around in that market. Maybe I'm the only one that was around in that market. Yeah, you think this market is slow, you have no idea. I went to do an open house on Hunter Way, which you guys all know in West Brant. It was a new construction neighborhood. And I just picked the house because it was a good price point. It was like $450 back then, which was a good going to be a good commission check. And as I was driving to do my open house, I passed 18 other for sale signs on Hunter Way, not in the neighborhood, on one street, right? And I was the last one in the newest area of the subdivision, and I opened the door, and the house wasn't even finished yet. It was like still being worked on by the builder. No furniture, nothing. And I sat down on the stairs, because I didn't even have a chair or anything, and I waited for 2 hours for not a single person to come through, and I said, I'm done with this. But I think that was a mistake, right? It was an emotional reaction, and I got out of doing this type of business for a lot of years. It wasn't until I built a team and I had other agents that were kind of gung-ho about this, we got back into it. But for a couple of years, I swore off open houses. Because I didn't do any of this, right? I just picked one for an obligation because I wanted to do it. Then I picked a wrong one. And then I did nothing to market it. And I just sat there and hoped people would show up. And none of those things happened for me. I went, I'm done, right? So we want to maximize the number of opportunities we have, because if I got nobody showing up, I'm not gonna nobody to talk to and nobody to follow up with. And then we also want to maximize our follow-up, because that's where a lot of the opportunity is going to happen. Imagine you have a busy open house, 30, 50 people come through. You're not even going to have time to talk to everybody. So it's going to be what you do on Sunday night, Monday morning, for the week after the open house that's really going to determine whether you pull a client out of this or not. Okay, let's get right into it. We're just going to rapid fire some of this stuff, because I don't want to talk for an hour today, because this is only supposed to be a 20 to 30 minute webinar. So ahead of time, key steps, and just think about what you might do differently. Again, if anyone wants to sit down and do some one-on-one planning around an open house, you can always ping me, right? But you want to make a plan. So the first thing is to plan ahead. We should not be picking our open house on Friday afternoon or Saturday for the weekend. You want to be thinking, I do open houses, right, Josh? So on Monday, I'm picking a property. I'm not waiting for my seller to ask me. If I don't have a listing, I'm looking at the board, either on my team or at my brokerage, and thinking, what type of house would I like to hold open for my lead gen? Lots of realtors in your brokerage or on your team would be your best friend if you called them on a Tuesday and said, can I hold your house open? But if you call them on Friday, there might not be enough time for the seller or anybody else to plan for it, right? You're going to make that other person look good when they call their client and say, guess what? I got an eager agent that wants to hold your house open. I think it'll be a great thing. And it also gives you time to do all your marketing. So the second item is decide if this is going to be part of your lead generation strategy, your business, then you're doing them on your schedule. You're not just doing them because you got a new listing or doing them because you didn't sell your listing. You're like, I do 3 open houses a month, or I do 2 a weekend if you're really trying to go for it, right? I do a Saturday and Sunday. I do a Thursday night one and a Saturday one and a Sunday one, if you're good at this. I've met people in the coaching community that open houses are their only lead pillar. They do nothing else. They run 3 open houses a week and they take the rest of the week off, right? I met a guy down in San Francisco that held 1 a week. And he was so dialed in at it, he always met another seller. So he just went that weekend, run the open house, sell the house at the open house, and land my next seller, repeat, 52 weeks a year. That was his entire business model. Now, it's easy in Silicon Valley when people are moving in and out of Tech Valley of $1 million houses every weekend. Different market, right? Sorry, typo there, but we want to make sure, oh no, that's right, marked. It's supposed to be marketed, marked. You have to let people know about it, right? In 2008, 2009, that meant I had to list it in 2 local newspapers, right? Nowadays, it means you have to go make sure it's ticked properly in your MLS system, that it's actually marked, so it's showing up on Realtor.ca. But depending where you're watching this Zoom for, you got to look at your local market. Where do consumers go to look for the list of open houses? Are you on that list, right? I believe, correct me if I'm not, I would say in our market, mostly it means just making sure it's ticked off on Realtor.ca now. But earlier the better. You know, some people are planning on a Tuesday afternoon, a Thursday. So the sooner you know about it, make sure it's on there, then go verify, right? 15, 30 minutes later, go over to Realtor.ca. Is it showing open house Sunday 2 to 4? Make sure it actually got up there. Then we want to make sure it's posted and advertised. Do not stop here, right? The biggest thing I learned from people who are doing open houses at a higher level is they go nuts with their marketing, their own marketing. This guy in San Francisco I was telling you about, he used to put out 50 directional signs to the house. That takes a couple hours, right? Until you're making a lot of money, then you pay somebody to do it. But 50. When I used to do this too, I had about 12 signs. And I know nobody in this room puts out 12 signs because I don't think we even own 12 signs as an entire team, right? So we're sharing a bunch of signs. But think about it. I used to grab a Google map, and somebody showed me how to do this, pin the house on it, and then you start to look. And what you're trying to do is go to the major streets and funnel people in because people are driving around. Even back in my day, I would take time to go and buy balloons every Sunday morning, actually Saturday, because the balloon store wasn't open on friggin' Sunday back then, so I'd have to have them in my car overnight. But I was with Remax back then, so it was a red, white, and a blue balloon tied to every single sign. Why? Because they flap in the wind and people see the sign more, and it worked. I swear to God, more people showed up when there's balloons on the signs. But this is the type of effort we have to put in. Also might want to, I know we have different signage rules. Here you're not really supposed to be putting all these signs out until Sunday morning in Brantford, Brant County, right? But you can have a big sign or a rider for the whole week ahead. So people who are driving that neighborhood know, oh, it's coming open that weekend. Same with your social media posts, your advertising, right? Flyering the neighborhood. All of this stuff. You think, is this on a checklist, or are we scrambling with these ideas every week? Or do we just, this is how I pull off and market an open house? Which ones you do is up to you, but you should be doing them consistently. Everyone should be the same, right, Josh? If you're doing 3 a month, they should be pulling off like clockwork, not one is a little different than the other. This is my favorite technique that I ever did, and I teach it to anyone who sits one-on-one with me, is do a neighbors-only preview. The most important thing for me to get from an open house is another listing, right? And no better way for you to get pre-interviewed for a listing than to have the sellers come see you do your job in person, right? So the way I did it is we traditionally in our market here, open houses are Sunday 2 to 4. So I would make up, so let me slow down a little bit. Why wouldn't a neighbor come to your open house? A lot of them are like, oh, I'm not going to be nosy, right? We don't think like that because we're realtors. We walk into people's houses and open their underwear drawers. But the average person, they watch from afar, right? They actually think it's impolite to come. I wouldn't go. I hear my parents say this. Their neighbor's house is up for sale and they're like, we might go to the open house, but we don't want to be nosy. I'm like, walk in. They don't care. It says open house, Mom. Go, check it out, right? But what we do instead is I make a postcard that looks like an invitation, not a flyer, right? It says you're invited to a neighbors only preview of this property. Come see the renovations and the decor before this home is sold. And then my little secret was to do it an hour before. So I would say you're invited 1 till 2. Then when you're sitting there between 1 and 2, you know every single person walking in that door is a neighbor. You don't even have to ask them. And I shit you not, half of them show up with the invitation. Ooh, I was invited. It's like, thank you, right? You're allowed in. Open the velvet rope for them, right? I would say do 100 plus. You just get 100 flyers, park your car at the house, and walk out in a direction, right? Think about how far they would walk, that many houses. Now, if you're my young aggressive guys, you're going to knock those houses too and personally invite them. Hey, it's James from the crew. I want to personally invite you to the neighbors preview. You're going to get a lot more people, right? The other thing, this is a side note, it's not even on here. We used to do this with our big IDX database, is I would send out the email to everybody and say, this is where I'm going to be Sunday. Even if you're not interested in this house, pop by and say hi to me. And they would. They'd come from the internet, from the database, and they'd be like, hey, Jeff, I'm coming to say hi, right? Like it's their opportunity to come meet you. They're not interested in the house at all. And that's cool. Now you're talking to someone in real life that you used to just be talking to through email. So put a lot of effort into the before. If we drop the ball on this, then you end up like me sitting on the stairs on Hunter Way for 2 hours hating your life and wondering why you're doing open houses, right? Nothing more depressing than having nobody show up to your open house. During, okay? Maximize the directional signs for sure. Second is make sure that you're figuring out how to get people's contact information in your style. I got 3 options here. I'm not saying do all of it, but you got to figure out what works for you. Some of us are super personal icebreakers and we can get cell phones off of people. Other of us need to be like mandatory sign-in people. One thing that started working really well because of the pandemic was QR code sign-ins, right? So you can make a Google form or whatever other piece of technology you use to get people's contact information and print out the QR code and everyone knows how to scan and sign in. We had to do it at restaurants for 2 years, right? You want to be real aggressive, it's my seller requires, right? I need your ID for safety reasons. It doesn't matter. You got to make up your own rules and then you just hold consistent to it. If that's the way you want to do it. Other people are more chit-chatty and just want to grab people's contact information, right?
I feel like I've always had like trouble with this part, but at our open house, I was with Kara on the weekends, and I just put a sign on the door saying, text this number to get let in, so then we automatically had their number.
Oh my God, brilliant.
So much easier.
It's like everyone knows to text for pickup at the stores now, right? Text me, lock the door, text me when that you've arrived.
Yeah. And
Would it be weird on a house?
No.
No?
Listen, nothing's weird if you are clear on the rules. It's your open house, it's your rules, right? If you want to say to people, I can't let you in without a photograph of your ID because the seller requires it, right? And but you have to be confident enough to say your rules. There's a bunch of different ways though. Like one of my tricks too is like having all the information you need, but only one copy of everything. Because then when people like it, you go, oh, I'll text you the PDF right now. What's your phone number, right? And then they give you your phone number. So it depends on your style. Do you want a record of everybody, or you're just trying to get the contact information of your 3 leads? But you got to think about this stuff, not just hope it happens. You got to plan. It's your open house. Oh yeah, there it is. That's the one I used to use all the time. I'd have my computer there and I'd have one sheet of everything, right? One printout of all the sales, all the listings, one flyer, and whatever they needed, I'd just say, no problem, let me send it to you, right? And I don't have my phone, it's actually recording, but I'll pretend I have a phone. This is my phone, the new model. If you do this, everyone will give you your phone number. You pull your phone out and you go, what's your number? And look down at your phone, right? And they will tell you their phone number. It's just human nature, but you got to do it with confidence. Okay, after the fact, this is where the rubber meets the road. Because unless you got a signed contract, a BRA, an offer, or a listing contract at the open house, highly unlikely, right? Maybe last year, we were holding a blank offer in our hands. But this is where you have to do your real work. So I see what you're saying, there's these 3 parts, before, during, and after, and there's work at all 3 of them. An open house is not just Sunday 2 to 4. After, what are you doing? I would highly recommend you start doing your follow-up Sunday night. Why? Because those people didn't just go to your open house. Wouldn't it be amazing if they came to your open house, went to another one, and then called you back to make the offer on that house? Whew, you feel like a champ, right? So Sunday night, Sunday at 4:30, open houses are over, in our market anyways. Hey, just checking in. We met at so-and-so address. How'd you make out the rest of your day? Did you find anything you liked? Did you see anything that you want to book a showing to? I still got hours tonight. Want to go and see something tonight? Right? You're going to stand out. Remember, people want someone who's going to serve them in this business. And when they went to 5 open houses, they signed in at 5 open houses, and you wait till Tuesday to call them back, you're the last person to follow up with them. Yes, Josh?
My open house last Sunday, a couple came through. They had been doing the whole open house circuit, and they told me I was the only one who offered them a tour of the property.
So I'm going to repeat because we got a bunch of people on Zoom. So Josh just mentioned that he was doing his open house, and these people came through, and they said that he was the only one that offered to show them through the house, right? And is that something you normally do? Do you want me to take you around the house?
I don't allow people unsupervised in the house.
How do you deal with more than one person in the house?
Don't let them in.
Okay, you do text me, the house is full, wait your turn.
And usually I have backup. Usually I have another agent there.
Yeah.
You don't normally get whatever. Anyway, I was shocked. I thought a tour was just like mandatory. Like I thought you had to do a tour. Like who doesn't show off the house?
Right. Well, you'll also be shocked that most of your competitors who are forcing people to sign in are not even phoning them back ever, right? Another thing I like, again, on everyone pick your own style, but I do really light intros, and then I ask them, because I come from the market research industry, I say, before you leave, promise you'll just come back and give me a little feedback on the house, because I promise the sellers I'm going to give them a report. And that way, people would literally come to find you on the way out instead of just ghosting you and disappearing, right? And so you just got to find what works for you. There's not a perfect thing to learn. There's like, what's my style? How does it work for me? And keep iterating it. But then when you figure out what works for you, nail it. Weekend after weekend after weekend, right? Okay. This one. Can I book you some other viewings? On any given weekend, there's maybe 5 to 10% of the listings or less on open house, right? So you got your computer there. Hopefully you got your hotspot live, right? What else do you want to see? They're obviously out shopping, right? They could only see a handful today. You could be booking them appointments right at the open house, live, right? Especially how fast technology moves right now. Some of the listings could be on show and go for 5 o'clock, 6:30 tonight. You could circle back with them. Book the listing appointment. If they are a neighbor, I'll be over at 4:15. Anyone pulled that one off? Somebody in this room's got to have pulled this off, right? Anybody else? Gone on a listing appointment at 4:15? Josh? Yeah, I used to do it. Don't wait for them to ask you, offer it. Oh, you're from the neighborhood? Great. No, I'll pop by right after. I'd love to see your place. How does it compare to this one? I'm there, right? Don't wait for them to ask. You offer it and just book it. Oh, wait, I'm already doing them at 4:15. I'll have to be at yours at 5:15, right? I'm too busy. I'm very exclusive. Okay, this is the big takeaway from today, right? When it comes to open houses, like everything I talk about, be selfish. Do it for you. This is your business. This is your opportunity. If you don't have a listing, do somebody else's open house. Not to do them a favor, do it for you. Do it for you. Cameron told me to look in the camera every once in a while. Second, then create a system. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants, right? Start with the basic one. Here's the 2 things I do to prep, the 2 things I do at it, and the 2 things I do, and eventually it'll expand to the 10 things I do, right? But if you're not following a system, how do you know if you had a good open house or a bad open house? Or it was your fault, or the house's fault, or the market's fault, or the weather's fault? But if you do the same thing every week, then you can start taking some variables out of the equation. Make sure the system is set up very simple, before, during, and after. How do I prep and market it? What scripts and materials, and how do I act in the house? And then what do I do to follow up afterwards? And then Monday morning, I repeat. I start over with the next house, right? Okay, guys, very exciting. For those of you in the room, we've been putting all this content up on YouTube, but I'm moving it over to an app. So it's already all loaded up there. Google Play is live. The Apple Store is a bit of a pain in the ass to deal with, so we keep bouncing back and forth. I hope to be live in the next week or 2, but I will send you the link after. That's where we'll be posting all this stuff for free still, but it's a place where on your phone, you'll have a full index of everything we've ever done here on the Tuesday sessions and other cool stuff. I just recorded a video on how to use AI to do your listing descriptions. We're going to be talking about advertising and all kinds of other tips and tricks, so keep an eye out for that. And then coming up for the rest of the month, we just did open house opportunity creation. Next week, please. It's going to be dry, but if you haven't figured it out yet, I love processes and checklists. And this is, we're talking about the big daddies, your weekly and daily and monthly action checklist to run your business methodical, right? So my open house checklist is just one, but I'm talking about what do you do every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? What do I do every 1st of the month, every 30th of the month? What do I do every time I get a new lead? What do I do every time I go to prepare an offer? You start running your business based on systems, you keep getting better and better, and the business gets easier every year. So please join me for that one next week. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about your own personal branding. This is one I see a lot of people get struggling with. I'm going to talk to the Zoom now because I talk to you guys about it a lot, and we have a way of doing it here on the team. You guys have your brand going on. But a lot of people get confused. There's all these layers. We've got our brokerage, we've got a team, we've got ourselves, maybe we've got our own name, maybe we got our headshots, what are our colors, what's our fonts, oh my God, right? We got to figure this all out. But you got to have something going on, and I'm going to make it simple for most of you. And then we're going right back to like today's session, but we're going to be talking about getting the phone ringed on active listings. And secret, you can get the phone ring on other realtors' listings too, right? If they've offered to data share them and they're on the IDX system, you're allowed to advertise them, right? That's part of the rules. But you can also do it with permission. So you don't even need to be an open house to make this happen. We can get the phone ringing, but people asking you about an active listing is one of the highest quality leads in the business. And we need to make that happen for ourselves. We want to start asking, how many inbound calls would I like a week of people asking me about a listing? And then what do I do to turn that into a client of mine? Not just say, oh yeah, it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, click, right? Okay, and then we have one more week. I'll welcome a topic. I'll figure one out if I don't get a request. And then it's kids' March break. So we're going 5 weeks of straight training. So I hope to see you guys. Again, anyone on the Zoom, you're always welcome to join us live in the room. And if anyone has a suggestion for March 7th, throw it out for me and I will make sure it's there. Last week, we talked about short form video. I would highly recommend you go back and rewatch it. I just passed the 112,000 accounts reached in the last 28 days. Simply by posting every single day. And I know we got a lot of success happening in the room too, by just being consistent. It's the way we're reaching people in 2023. Thanks a lot for joining me, everyone. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.